everybody. Welcome to the Hallmarkies podcast. We are very excited today. We are talking about two of this weekend's Lifetime movies on Lifetime Channel. We are talking about A Sugar and Spice Holiday and the Christmas setup. So that's going to be very fun. And I'm film critic Rachel Wagner. And today I have two very special guests. First off, Colleen is here.
Hi.
Yes, from the Fran cast that we do every week. It's so fun. And I have YouTuber Jared Buckendahl here. And thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Absolutely. No, thank you for inviting me over. You threw out Christmas rom-coms and I was sold. I was sold right there.
Yes. Well, see, I was watching your happiest season review, and I'm always looking to kind of shake up the podcast, get new voices, get new perspectives. And I was listening to your review, and you were like, "I love Christmas rom-coms," and I said, "Oh my gosh, he has to come on the podcast."
Yep. You figured me out.
Yes. So that was very exciting. Well, since this is your first time on the podcast, why don't you introduce yourself to us and tell our listeners a little bit about what you do on your channel?
Absolutely. Yeah. My name is Jared Buckendahl. I also run a YouTube channel where I, kind of do the typical movie reviews, reactions, and a bunch of other stuff. But I kind of like to put comedy into some of my reviews and other videos and stuff like that. So it's kind of this weird hybrid of movies, movie lover, but also a bit of a comedian as well. And like I said, I love Christmas and I love rom-coms. So I'm so excited to talk about these two movies.
All right. Yeah, you do some like skits and stuff like that. It's very funny.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, people should definitely check it out over there. Have you been able to watch anything else this holiday season, this Christmas, aside from holiday happy season? Anything stand out?
Not a whole lot that really stands out. Again, my parents, like when I go home, they literally have the Hallmark just playing in the background, and they were telling me about the movies that they've been watching. So I'm sure when I go home over Christmas, they'll have a handful of suggestions for myself.
Oh, good. Well, we can give you some recommendations.
Perfect.
As well.
Perfect.
Well, and if you're listening, put us send us some Twitter recommendations for Jared of what he should watch. Your favorites. Delivered by Christmas is my favorite from Hallmark.
Yeah,
I gave it a rare perfect score on the podcast. I really loved it. So very exciting. Well, thank you for coming on. And we actually also did an episode of the Frankcast on the Christmas setup, where we talked about it kind of more almost from Fran's angle, because obviously it's the Francast, and we love Fran Drescher, and I got to interview her, which was beyond my wildest dreams. Yes. And she was every bit as amazing as you expect. And Colleen and I are both huge fans of The Nanny.
Yes.
Fran Drescher's show from the 90s. And so we love her, and she's delightful. And she really was a perfect person to be kind of the matriarch of this film. And I think because she's always been such a advocate for LGBTQ rights, and always been such an ally, even on The Nanny and her show. So it was very, very, very good. And so let's talk about the Christmas setup first, and then we'll talk about A Sugar and Spice Holiday. And this was on Lifetime Channel. It starred Ben Lewis and Blake Lee and Fran Drescher. And Ben Lewis and Blake Lee are actually a real life married couple. And
I did not. Wow. Okay, that explains a lot then.
Changes your mind a little bit, right? Or gives you a different perspective.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. And sometimes when you have, and Colleen can attest to this, in these rom-coms, sometimes married couples, it doesn't always have the chemistry that you expect. And I think sometimes it's just like you'd be doing something natural, but then the camera, once you know the camera's on, all of a sudden it's not as natural.
Right.
And I don't know, it doesn't always work out like you think.
It's not a guaranteed perfect chemistry. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and Fran told me that they were nervous, that they would have on-screen chemistry and everything, but I think they totally did. And the plot, if according to IMDb, is as they enjoy the local holidays together, Hugo and Patrick's attraction to each other is undeniable. But as Hugo receives word of a big promotion requiring a move to London, he must decide what is most important to him. I don't think that's a very good summary, but there we go. That's what they had on there. So, Jared, overall, what did you think about this movie?
Yeah, well, one, I had no clue that they were actually married in real life, which definitely changes my perspective of the chemistry, where I thought that definitely worked, where they're trying to do, you know, this standoffish, skittish feeling at first, but then they blossom into something by the end, which, man, wow, I was surprised by that. But I think Fran was my favorite part for sure, because I hadn't seen her since literally The Nanny. You know, you two have the Fran cast and everything, and I was like, oh, this is nice to see her back in this, but it definitely captures that Christmas feel, you know, that not exactly hitting on typical rom-com beats, but I really like the kind of setup that they put these two characters in, and how they sort of had a past, but they never really talked to one another, but they knew a little bit about each other. It was cute, I guess.
Colleen, what overall did you think?
Oh, I loved it. I was able to watch it twice, so that was lovely. So it's just really enjoyable. I agree. I love the chemistry between the two guys. I thought it was pretty natural. I thought it was cute. They were a little shy around each other. It was almost like a little bit of, you know, they knew each other in high school. It was almost like that high school kind of thing. You know, you're awkward around each other, which I loved. Fran was delightful. She was hilarious. She wasn't too over the top. And I liked that some of the secondary stories weren't too much of the whole story. The plot was really around the matchmaking and the setups, which I loved the most. And I liked the friend and the other brother, and I pretty much liked everything about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I loved it. I thought it was great. And to be honest, there are a bunch of parts of it that are tricky for me, that I typically struggle with in these movies. Like the save the train station plot could have been really boring and predictable, but in here it was really just a vehicle of connecting with the past. And there was no sense of like real time spent on stakes of, are they going to lose the train station? And because most of the time it's just so predictable, of course they're not going to lose it. And so you don't, so that doesn't usually work for me. But here it was just like I said, it was just a vehicle for connecting with the past. And I thought that was such a nice element, especially knowing that it's the first LGBTQ lead Christmas rom-com on either of the networks. And so the fact that they found such a nice way to connect with the past, I just really loved that. And I thought that the movie had a lot of nice moments of family and connection. I liked the way that both brothers were treated equally by both sons were treated equally by Fran, and she was excited about both of them, and really that's, you know, how it should be. And I mean, especially after you see something like Happiest Season, where, you know, the all the children are treated so differently, and there's such a terrible relationship between all these sisters. I really liked the fact that these two brothers, yeah, they had their issues and everything like that, but I don't know, there was just a nice sense of community and family throughout the whole film. And, you know, also that family is what you make of it, and the way that they treated Maddie and, you know, made her a part of the family. It was just so nice. It's a very sweet movie, I think. So overall, I really enjoyed it. And it starts out with Meet Cute, with Patrick delivering the tree and Fran, of course, arranging all of that. And that was so fun. I loved that.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah. And I mean, just the whole the tree.
Yeah.
The tree.
See, that's the one thing that I really appreciated in this, was they weren't scared to make subtle jokes every now and then, where the tree one, there's the garage with the talking about the balls, or the ornament rather, like that really gave me a chuckle.
Mhm. Yeah, I loved when they're on the roof and, he's like, "Great, I have to be on the roof all day with the lawyer,"
Right.
that was funny. And it was just nice to have a Christmas rom-com, from an LGBTQ perspective that didn't have to do with coming out. That was just there that it that was already that trauma had already been dealt with years
Mhm.
before. And that was that not that there's anything necessarily wrong with those stories, but I feel like we don't get very many romances that are just authentic experiences of already out.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I mean,
Uh,
they I guess kind of a little bit, just a little confusion where they thought that, Maddie was
yeah,
his wife, and I was like, "That's perfect. That's enough that you need to do
yeah,
here,"
Right.
and then they're on the same page.
right.
Mhm.
And I could see why Patrick thought that because they were pretty touchy feely.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
for sure.
Like, so yeah, what did you think, Jared, of Maddie as her character in this?
I really liked her. She was, that fun, bubbly best friend and whatnot. And it was fun to see that, yeah, oh wow, they are talking like they're a married couple and whatnot, but it's like, no, 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 no. We're just friends, we go on vacations, all this stuff. But I liked how Fran and her kind of had that relationship of almost like a daughter she didn't really ever have.
Mhm. I did
Mhm.
too. I really did, and I liked the whole scene when when she's giving him fashion advice.
He's wearing
That was so
dad
funny.
jeans.
Yeah, that was really funny. Because I think that all of us have kind of let our fashion go to some extent. Maybe you haven't, Jared,
Oh
but
no, I'm wearing sweatpants every
2020.
day. Come on.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's right.
I was just telling a friend earlier, she texted that she got her niece makeup for Christmas, and I'm like, "I miss wearing eyeshadow." I just have no reason to.
I think if I was going to like nitpick, I guess the most ridiculous part of the movie is this app. This Cassandra app is
Oh yeah, yeah.
you kind of just have to let that go because it evidently this app can do anything. I want this app.
Right.
It
What
can
what what it used
uh,
statistics, and then it somehow
yeah,
chose the most likely outcome based on characteristic. Yeah, it was it was a little far fetched, especially when it's like,
yeah.
yeah, I made a bunch of money, I moved back, blah blah blah.
Yeah, it could he put all of his of Hugo's taste in the app and it predicted the menu for the date. But it also at the same time predicted the weather patterns for the northern lights. So I mean
Right. That was crazy.
It's a Christmas miracle. Come on.
yeah, it is. It's really I mean no wonder he made a lot of money. I mean that thing it's like the Oasis and Ready Player One or
Mhm.
something.
Mhm.
But I really liked their first date because a lot of times these rom-coms kind of forget about dating.
Mhm.
They go they're either people that are planning something for a work thing or a community thing or they've known each other their whole lives kind of thing, but they forget that kind of awkwardness of a first date and that I really like that. I like it when these movies take the time to include the dating. And so this first date at the tree lot I thought was really cute.
For sure. I agree. And it was nice because it wasn't a perfect date, but
Mhm.
it was just adorable. It was outdoors. I think I mentioned this before. It was outdoors. You don't see that often. I don't know if I would want to do that, but it's very unconventional to be in a tree lot for a date. I thought that was cool.
Mhm. Yeah, and it was nice their conversation. I think they did a really good job with the script in this movie. Like the dialogue for the most part felt pretty authentic and natural and they're talking about how he admired him so much for being out in high school and how he just saw them as this, the popular kid and he says Patrick says to him, "The popular guy was the lonely guy."
Mhm.
And that's some really good moments, I thought.
Right. I agree.
Mhm. Yeah. And, yeah, so then they have the decorating on the roof, which I loved that whole sequence. That was really funny. And, we get a little bit of the backstory of the train station, and, they first they wonder kind of who is this guy and what's his story? And they start to find out more and more. And yeah, what did you think about that, Jared, as far as that element of the movie?
The train station part.
Yeah, the train station owner
Yeah,
and him being gay and them starting by covering that.
yeah. I mean, they kind of left it in this shadow of, I guess, not mystique. Like it was. I mean,
Hmm.
it like you're saying, kind of the past resembled the present, or vice versa. And I liked that element where it was like, okay, things have progressed and whatnot, but
Hmm.
also it's like they are taking up now the mantle of now taking over the train station and whatnot. I had a feeling that from the beginning that obviously they were going to have to deal with that, or the train station, and keep it open, or one of them was going to take it over. But I think that when they added in the previous owner, and then kind of his own personal life, because
Yeah.
they kind of said that he was a very private man and whatnot, and then when they find those old pictures and kind of his log or journal, I like that. I like that added component to the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, me too. I really did. I just thought it was a really nice way of connecting what we've accomplished now with the past and honoring the past. And because sometimes those kind of elements can be really boring in these movies where they're researching like a past love or a kind of a thing, like, and I swear there's been a million this season of someone has a ring or
Yes.
a charm bracelet or a picture or a newspaper article, and a lot of times they're not very interesting. But this was just like this little nugget, like in
Mhm.
within a greater movie, I think.
And that's what I think worked so well about it, is that it wasn't the vocal point of the movie. It was like, "Hey, we're gonna add this in, it's gonna tie up the end, but it's not what the main through line of this mysterious person we're trying to figure out."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So then we get Aiden coming, the other brother, the other son. What did you think, Colleen, of Aiden as a
I
character?
liked him. I thought he was interesting. I liked that he was not your typical, I don't know uh what part of the military he was in, if he was in the army.
Yeah.
That he wasn't your typical, I felt like he would look civilian. I know that sounds weird. Like he wasn't
Yeah.
in a dangerous place. He was able to get home. You don't hear that a lot. You don't see that a lot in these movies where the military vet can get home and be home or be stationed nearby. I like
Yeah.
that. I liked that he and Hugo had a little bit of awkwardness to their relationship in the beginning scene, and I wasn't sure how that was going to go, but that was resolved, but I liked that, if you don't see somebody for a long time, you just don't know how you're going to be with
Mhm.
them. Are you going to have anything
That's
to
true.
talk about? And
Yeah,
but
that's
they were
true.
close, and they had their separate things. Hugo had his thing with the tools and his father that Aiden didn't have, and I think he understood that, and he was fine with it. He wasn't jealous of it or anything. So I appreciated that.
Yeah. Yeah, I really liked that too. I liked that scene where he was helping Hugo with the model, and the where Hugo says, "Glitter Snow, you made your gay brother very proud." I thought that was a really nice moment, and that he recognized that was Hugo and his dad's thing, and he was okay with that. It was really nice. And I also just liked the fact that he was so comfortable with the idea of pursuing something with Maddie, in the sense of there was no drama of like, oh, it's long distance or whatever. He was just like, yeah, she's amazing, of course we'll make it work.
Right.
Like,
Mhm, mhm.
that was cool. I liked that. That was good. So then we get the caroling scene, and you have Fran getting out this box of hats, which I have never heard of that for caroling, but it was so cute, I thought.
It was cute. We've
Yeah.
talked offline, Rachel. I'm not a caroler. I've never caroled before. I don't dislike
Yeah.
caroling, but the hats were a funny touch that you don't see in
Yeah.
most movies. So I thought that was cute.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I was a little off guard, caught off guard by what what was happening. I was like, I thought Caroline, you just go around do your thing, but
Yeah.
she had a whole get up for him.
Yeah, but it was so cute because it gave Patrick a chance to be like, you look adorable in that
Mhm.
hat. So it was fun. It made a flirty moment out of what could have just been a blah scene. It was cute. And yeah, I'd never heard of that tradition of the and he's like, why do you have a box of weird hats?
Don't we all? I mean, I
Yeah,
do.
that's
I'm
right.
kidding.
Yeah. Yeah, and so that was fun. And they don't have caroling that often in these movies, maybe because it's not done as much now as it used to be, but also because you have to deal with songs and copyright and all that stuff.
Mhm.
But it was nice. It was something fun. And so he gets the call. He's going to get a promotion. He's going to become partner, but he has to go to London if he's going to take the promotion. And so that's sort of our conflict, which again is something we've seen a lot. But I don't know. I just liked the way that they handled it in this film. And you have the you have the whole scene then at the pop up uh, restaurant, club, whatever, with the drag performer
Mhm.
and that whole scene. I thought this maybe went on a little bit too long, the sequence, if I was going to nitpick again, but I still liked it. I loved Hugo singing Have Yourself a Merry Little
Mhm.
Christmas because that's my favorite carol. And it was just a sweet moment from, and I liked the fact he just sang it like a normal human because a lot of times in these kind of movies, you have someone who's trying to get a recording deal or something and they just they get
It's their
crazy.
time to shine.
Yeah, they're like, ooh, ah, ooh, you know,
Mhm.
stop it.
You said your favorite religious carol is what? Or song is what?
My favorite religious carol is What Child Is This?
Do you have favorites, Jared?
And
I'm gonna be honest. No, I don't. I just love all of Christmas. So it's whatever has a nice melody and tune and whatnot. I'm going along with.
I have to say, it's kind of funny. I watched the sci-fi Toys of Terror because I'm watching all the Christmas movies
Mhm.
this year, and they used 'cause it's all about these kids' toys that are possessed, right? And they
What?
used "What Child Is This" very
What?
creatively. in that movie.
This sounds bizarre.
Yeah, it's bonkers. If you wanna do another episode talking about Toys of Terror, we can. But yeah, they used "What Child Is This." I was like, "What is happening?" But anyway, yeah, what did you think, Jared, of this whole scene at the pop-up
I
club?
liked it. I mean, it was one of those things where I think Hugo throughout this story is kind of almost stepping out of his comfort zone. You know, at the very beginning, we find out that he kind of stands up against his boss, being like, "Hey, give me this promotion, or I'm bouncing out of here." And he was very flustered because that was out of character for himself. And then, kind of as the movie continues, he's following that I guess character development where yeah, he jumps up there to sing and
Mhm.
it's not necessarily something that I think his character would have done,
Mhm.
but he does it and it obviously turns out great. It impresses Patrick as well. And I think that it just really fit kind of, that home for the holidays, holiday feel, have a couple drinks, go up, have fun with your friends and whatnot.
Yeah, I agree. And I forgot before that they have their game night,
Oh yeah.
and it's this Christmas trivia game, and it really felt like a real family. My family, we love playing games, and so that's something I really relate to. And then Maddie lets it slip
Hmm.
that he got the promotion in London. I thought that Fran's response was so great and some of the best kind of dramatic acting I've seen from her, where she just immediately she's sad, you can tell, and you can feel that, but she's like, "Oh, I'll go see you in Harrods," and she's immediately kind of comforting. And I liked the fact that pretty quickly they were fine, Hugo and Maddie. That didn't become like a thing of
Yeah.
he's
Right.
mad
Yeah.
at her or something
Exactly.
like that. So that was I loved that whole game sequence. That was really fun. Made me I'm like Maybe just because I'm only going to spend Christmas with my parents, but we could play Christmas trivia. Why not?
Oh yeah.
Why not?
You just gotta bring a big ol' annoying bell.
That's right. Ding, ding, ding. Uh, and so at first, Patrick is like, "Oh, we're not going to be able to do this. We're not going to be able to make it work." And so then Hugo is trying to figure it out. And he finds the picture of the train station owner, and they're almost holding hands. But they, of course, couldn't, him and his partner, at that time. And so he basically is like, well, I can be a lawyer anywhere, which is totally true. Like, you can work anywhere. And so they decide that, he decides he's going to make things work. And they have the whole kind of ending sequence at the train station, where they find out they're going to be able to save the train station. And he gives Fran the model, and everybody's coming together. It's just really great. And I loved the fact that the movie ends with them with Hugo and Patrick in the same spot as the train station owner and his partner, but they could not only hold hands, but they could kiss, and then it was fine. And that was just really sweet. And I enjoyed that. And so yeah, I think it was a really, really good movie. I really enjoyed it. I can't remember what I think I gave it a 9 on the Fran cast, 9 out of 10. But in on this show we do out of 5 stars.
Mhm.
So Jared, what would you give this out of 5?
I'd probably give it a 4.2 out of 5 stars.
Pretty good. That's good. What about you,
I'm going to
Colleen?
stick with what I did yesterday and divide it by 2. So 4.5 out of 5.
Yeah, so I think I will agree with. I'll do a 4.25. I didn't have many qualms with it. It was
Mhm.
really, really sweet. So there we go. That's the Christmas setup. So let's talk about A Sugar and Spice Holiday. So this film is also on on Lifetime Channel, and it stars Jackie Lay, Tony Garo, and Sai Ma. And I loved Cindy Piper as Nima in the flashback scenes.
Mhm.
And this was written by writer Irene Donahue, and I was able to actually talk with her and interview her, and she was really fun. I really enjoyed getting to talk with her. But the plot is a rising young architect, Susie, returns to her hometown in Maine for Christmas and finds herself competing in the local gingerbread bake-off alongside an old high school classmate, Billy, while also trying to win a big promotion at work. So, Jared, overall, what did you think about this film?
Oh, I think this one out of the 2 was my favorite because it added the element of food. So it was Christmas, like cookies and baking and all of that stuff, but also, that Christmas, rom-com feel. I don't know, all these, just feel so good of, like, someone having a fantastic, job. The first one was the lawyer, this one's the architect, going back home and then reconnecting with, their high school sweetheart, essentially. I thought that this one, the 2 leads were very cute playing off of
Yeah.
one another, especially when they're baking and, being in that kitchen with a significant other. That felt authentic and real of like, hey, what can I help you with? And kind of jumping over here and jumping over there. And also I really related and appreciated what they did with Susie's kind of her dedication to perfection, where her throughout this movie, she essentially learns like, hey, life isn't going to be perfect. Where it was from the baking to the architecture and stuff. You just, maybe life's going to throw a wrench into it. You just got to go with the flow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree so much with all of what you said. What about you, Colleen? What did you think overall of
I
this one?
really liked it a lot. I agree with a lot of what you said about perfection. I was going to mention something about that. It's
Mm-hmm.
just something some people are so driven. It may be their family's influence, it may just be their own. And it's hard for them to kind of get around that. And they try to do it in every aspect of their life. But what I liked about her going back home, she was excited about it. She wasn't feeling forced into it, even though she had this big promotion on the line. But what I also liked is that when she did go home and she was doing the gingerbread, there was a history behind it. She had like there was a
Mhm.
meaning to it. It wasn't just I'm just going to enter this contest and be supreme. It was like really to honor her grandmother and to just be involved with her family and all that. I liked that a lot. And I loved how she would label people with food items. That was my
Yes.
favorite
Yes,
part.
that was my favorite.
Yeah, I so wish that I had been able to watch the movie before interviewing Irene, because I would have loved to have asked her what my cookie is. I said, 'cause that was so funny. I loved that. And this story at its core is something we've seen, of course, a million times, with the girl from the city going back home and being involved in some kind of festival or whatever. But they elevated it with I thought, a pretty funny script, and I agree, those moments of heart really worked for me. And I lost both my grandmas last year, so all the stuff with Nima just really hit home for
Mhm.
me and really was so touching. But then they'd have like funny, very funny things, like all of the the different cookies that people are like, but also little things like the fact that Keanu Reeves is half Chinese. Like, that was funny.
That was so bizarre. I'm like, "Am I watching the right movie?" And then I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna go with it. This is the
Yeah,
vibe that this movie's given me."
yeah. It was so funny. I laughed. And so, yeah, they start out. Susie is a sugar cookie. Nima is she's a spicy dumpling, soft, spicy, but full of flavor. And I liked that Marshall was a sugar-free lemon square.
And the one that sister-in-law was a vegan
Yeah,
blondie brownie with something else. Like, it was funny.
yeah, that was hilarious. I loved that. And I, the she has the sort of that you work hard enough, you can be anything. And I liked the way the movie embraced Chinese culture with, I don't know, without it being too kind of grown worthy. You know what I mean? Like, it didn't feel like tokenism to me, at least. It felt like there was, some jokes and things like that, but it felt, reasonably authentic to me. And like, you have at the beginning, Marshall's like, well, do you celebrate Christmas at all? And she's like, I'm from Maine. That was great. I thought that was
And
really good.
I found it very funny that her father learned English from Johnny Cash.
Yeah, that
Mhm.
was good.
That was cute.
He was lovely, I thought, in this, Zima, as the dad. I thought he did a really good job, especially the scene we'll talk about more, but the scene where she, finally breaks down and is really upset. I thought he was really
There's been
great
some
in
good
this.
grandpas this year on Hallmark and Lifetime,
Yes.
like the grandpa in The Christmas Bow. He was my other favorite grandpa. Remember the one?
Yeah, that actor was also really good in Dash and Lily,
Oh,
who
really?
was in, which I loved. Yeah, that was
So
so
this is the
good.
year of the grandma and
Uh,
grandpa, I guess, which is lovely.
yeah. Mhm. And so then I also liked the fact that, so Billy, he is viewed as sort of the prankster, the difficult one, and there's some truth to that. When you go home, it's hard to not revert back into kind of the person that you were in high school, or growing up. And it was a little different for me because my family moved my senior year of high school, so I never had that experience of going back to like my old peer group and that kind of thing. But just as far as my siblings and sibling dynamic, if we're all together, you do kind of feel that sort of going back to where you kind of all left off. I think that's true.
For sure. And you reminisce about the
Yeah.
same things you reminisced about 10 years ago. At least I do.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
fun though. It's enjoyable, but it's like there's not really sharing new experiences is fine, but it's hard to relate to other people. So you got to connect on something you already know.
Yeah. Do you, Jared, do you live away from your family or what?
Yeah, I do. And it's funny because right when you were just talking about that whole feeling of going back home, yeah, like I am from a very small town. I think I graduated with 38 people in my high school class. So when we do get back together, for holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas, it does feel like this movie did, or that feeling of, these were people that you saw every day. Time has passed, but then you come back and kind of talk about nostalgia, essentially.
Yep.
Yeah. I really liked the way that her mom just hated
I
Billy.
know.
Like,
Until
Mhm,
he tried
it
mhm.
to
was
have one
hilarious.
too.
The cops and everything.
Yeah. She she's wanting her to have an escort until she finds out Billy's going to be her escort, and she's like, "You live in LA, you're fine." That was so funny. And she introduces her as the she flosses every day and has wide hips.
I
That's good. Oh my gosh, I'd be so embarrassed. Um, but Cardi Wong plays her brother, and he's the hippie voodoo guy, and chakra and all that. And he has two kids, married, and he had some funny moments, some funny parts. I
know.
thought, and I thought that Jackie and Tony had nice chemistry. Jackie Lai and Tony Guru. I thought they did, especially because they, they had to cast this movie from all Canadians. I mean, there's a lot of Canadian actors, of course, but they just didn't have the same pool of actors that they would typically have because of the quarantine and everything.
Mhm.
And so I thought they were really lucked out. These two, they were really, really nice.
Oh yeah, they were great. I thought they did well together. And Cardi was like weird seeing him. Cardi, Jared, the guy who played the brother, he's in a lot of Hallmark movies.
Yeah,
So
Okay.
he's in a lot of Hallmark movies.
He just keeps popping up.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
all one connected universe.
yeah. And we want him to get a lead so
yeah.
bad
Yeah.
because he's so
But
fun.
I had a hard time picturing him with kids that old. He just seems so
I
young to
know.
me. I don't know how old he
I
really
know.
is, but it was different to see him with two younger children.
I yeah, I liked the way that they kind of naturally had the Chinese culture, and like I loved the little altar that the incense that they had for Nima there. And I just loved all of the scenes, the flashbacks with Nima was so sweet.
Mhm.
And then the uh so she's working on her project on the design, and there's then and they ask her to be part of the Gingerlicious crew, which was Nima's big thing. So she takes Nima's recipes and she decides to do it. And what did you think of forgot to write down her name, but the girl from high school who was the mean girl, and now she figured out dairy was causing her all kinds of problems, and now she's super nice.
Wha-
That made me laugh. So,
Very strange line. Very strange for sure.
but she seemed really that sort of stay-at-home mom who never gets out very much, and so this is like her one time away from the kids, and she's like, "Yeah."
Mhm.
It was
Yeah.
funny.
Ah.
Yeah, and then the uh so Billy and Susie, they're kind of opposites. They're not getting along at first, but she goes to see this toy store and sees his toy design. She thinks he should submit it. He says it's not ready. So she takes the photos and everything, and they make it third place in the first round because she plays it safe
Mhm.
in the baking round. And then he gets her to do karaoke, and he tells her to find your inner Elsa, which I thought was funny.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
I guess they can say things like that because Lifetime is owned by Disney, so they can say things like that. But that was a cute scene, I
Mhm.
thought, when
It
they're
was
singing.
cute.
And then the second level of the food competition was this, I thought, strange bread competition. I've never
Yeah.
heard of putting ginger with bread.
Nope. That
Yeah, I legit thought that they were just gonna make like gingerbread men and stuff, but it was actual bread. So I was very caught off guard.
Me too. And I've never heard of that in my life. And I thought it might be like the cakey gingerbread, you know,
Mm-hmm.
how it can
Mm-hmm.
be like a cake or something like that, a cake. And instead it was this weird bread, and she accidentally puts
salt, right?
the salt in the filling of one of the breads.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess the other ones were good. But yeah, they get they lose, and so everybody's so disappointed, and she's feeling bad. So then next he sets up the mini Christmas dance in the fire hall.
Mhm.
And he thought that she was out of his league. He didn't have the courage to ask her. She thought that he wasn't interested because he went out with this other girl. Miscommunication. But it turns out he didn't actually get permission to have the dance there.
Yep.
So it gets broken up. But what do you think, Colleen? That was a pretty
That
fun
was cute.
moment.
That was super cute. I
Yeah.
love little stuff like that. Although you can never get
Yeah.
everyone can get into their high school. I don't understand how that works because
Yeah.
I
Yep.
could have never gotten it back into my high school. Now, when I go home, I also live away. None of my family lives in my hometown anymore. Actually, my father's passed
Oh.
on. My parents have passed on. So no one lives in that town, but my brother is close. So,
But wasn't this in the fire hall?
oh, that was a fire
Or
hall, but close enough. I was thinking of another
yeah.
one. You're right. But I was thinking, like, how do you
Yeah.
get in these places?
Yeah.
Malls,
Yeah.
high
Right.
school, you
Yep.
name
Well,
it, community centers.
especially how he could set all that up without them being like, you don't have a permit or permission to do
Exactly.
that.
Right.
Yeah, he went there's commitment
Stealth.
put into what he's doing in this scene.
Yeah.
Very cute and everything, but it's also like one of what many times that they're about to kiss and someone interrupts them like that
Yeah.
because the alarm went off and everything.
Yeah, that was a new one. Near kiss via fire,
Mhm. Fire
fire,
alarm.
fire alarm. Um, and so then Mimi is her mother is very upset because he's leading her on this life of crime once again. And and so he's over there and he eats her stinky tofu and
Yep.
she's in love with him. That's all it
Oh, it
took.
was so funny.
I loved her how she was just like, Americans, all they want is kung pao.
Yeah,
Yep.
cacao and
Yep.
so yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, that was that food court kung pao junk is what she called it. I do like kung pao chicken. It's
I
very
like
good.
kung pao shrimp.
Yeah.
It's tasty. Sorry.
Yeah. That was funny to me. And so then they have this whole scene where they are making cookies and you get this which I am such a sucker for these cozy baking scenes where they're like leaning over each other and like working the dough and all that. I'm a big fan. They're kind of ridiculous, but I don't care. I love it. So I loved that scene. That was really good. More cozy dough kneading scenes
Oh,
as far
you're
as
funny. I
yes,
just don't
that's
love
right.
I mean, I've never done that myself with anybody, and I don't know of anyone who
Nobody
ever
in
has.
I don't know if anybody in the history of baking has ever done that, but I don't care. I love it.
So funny.
Because you get so little intimacy in these
You're right.
films.
Mhm.
There's so maybe if they're dancing, then you have a little bit of time where they're cheek to cheek. But if they throw in one scene where they're cozy, I'm a fan. I love it. And yeah, then they almost kiss, and the kids interrupt. Darn kids. And did you feel, Jared, super stressed when her project got erased? That
Oof.
woo,
I had a bad feeling something was going to
I know.
happen because the way that deadline was getting pushed around, the way that everything was playing out at home, and that balance of this love life and family, but also this career. And when she opened that up, I felt it because I've been there a project or two where all of a sudden all these hours of work, and then you're like, I guess I'll just start over.
Mhm.
So yeah, just the rough feeling.
Yeah, I think we've all been there where it's just like, it's gone. Oh my gosh. Oh no. And I'm freaking out.
Yep.
Uh, and yeah, I felt for her there. And then he gets mad at her because Billy gets mad at her because she's trying to be nice, but she submitted his idea to the toy people or the app people or somebody, and they liked it. So she's excited, and he's like, "How dare you do that without my permission?"
Mhm.
So things are mounting up, piling up
Now,
for
Rachel,
her.
that just happened in another Hallmark movie, but it was a different reaction.
Yes.
How did you feel? Listen, me asking you. I'm sorry. How did you?
Oh, you're fine.
How did you feel about that one, like versus the one with Danica last week?
Yeah. So what happened with Danica is she had a finished version of her novel in some form, at least. Maybe it wasn't perfect, maybe it wasn't edited, whatever. And the Dylan Neal character shows it to a publisher. The publisher loves it, wants to publish her book. And she's like, "How dare you submit it?" Like, and I
Mhm.
was very irritated about that because I'm like, what author wouldn't be thrilled to have
Right.
somebody that wants to publish, like, and it doesn't really, if it's not finished in her eyes, at least he still liked it enough to want to
So
publish
they'll
it.
give you
Like,
the
it's not like
tools
you
to finish
can't
it.
finish
Yeah.
it. Yeah, and I'd have to say, I think the difference between those two things is that in this case it's way less of a plot
Maybe
point,
that's it.
and
Yeah.
so it's not as bothersome.
Yep.
Like, that was like the whole catalyst for them breaking up and everything like that in the other movie. In this case, it's just like a minor little bump in the road.
Okay.
If it had been a huge deal, I would have been a little bit annoyed with him. But and it did seem like it didn't seem like a finished product. It did seem like he was a little bit more in the testing
Mhm.
stages than like a finished novel. It may not be perfect of what you think, but yeah, that's how I would kind of differentiate the
Okay.
two, I
Okay.
think. Yeah. So, but it's not my favorite plot device, if you have to, because it's like, oh, how dare they did this really nice thing for you. So mean, but whatever. Uh, and so I just loved that scene between her and her dad when she is she's like, I'm a failure. I'm glad Nima isn't here to see me be a total failure at the competition, at her job, at her. And I feel like in these kind of movies, rarely do they let their characters be failures and be vulnerable and bad at things and actually fail. And that people are always trying to recreate You've Got Mail. But the thing about You've Got Mail that makes it better and different than all the rest of these is that she actually loses the store.
Right.
Mhm.
She actually has to go through that failure and grow and change as a person and as a human, and that makes it better than most of those kinds of stories. And in here, I liked the fact that they let her get to that spot. Yes, it was pretty quickly remedied, but still, I appreciated they went
Right.
there.
It's always a good scene. I like the father-daughter type stuff. And the fact that they just had a connection. I had a connection to my dad. I was closer to my father than I was to my mother. So, I can relate to those kinds of scenes a little bit more than maybe a mom and a daughter. So I
Hmm.
like that.
Yeah. Yeah. It was good. And so then the the competition is back on. There was cheating, bribing the judges. Oh
Yep.
my
Scandal.
yeah. That was,
Wow.
that was funny to me. And did you think that their gingerbread house should have won? Did you think it was the best of the three?
Ye-
Eh,
I want to say yes, but then again, I don't know.
right.
Hmm.
I really liked there was one that almost felt Arendelle-ish. It
Hmm.
got third place, which I thought was too low. But I liked it. But they were very smart to actually recreate the community center. Of course, that's going to win them
Right.
points
Exactly.
because that's what the competition's all about. Um, so find out it was wrong. She actually did get the promotion, but also Marshall also got some kind of promotion. And she says, you're gonna have to go to Australia. And this was an interesting ending to this movie because instead of where most of these movies, she ends up, giving up her career to be with the guy. He goes to Australia with her.
Hmm.
Right.
Yeah, what'd you think of that, Jared?
I again, now that you say word it the way you do, it's different, and I actually liked it. Where it's like, hey, not the female always has to give up and do what the male wants. It's like he's gonna go with her because she's got this awesome gig at doing architecture and whatnot. Yeah, I really did think that she would stay in the hometown with her family and the new guy, but threw a nice little surprise in there.
Hmm.
Yeah. And he says, I always wanted a sugar mama. That's really funny. And so, yeah, I loved that. What do you think of
I
that,
thought it
Colleen?
was cute. And it is nice for the man to do something for the woman once in a while. It's nice to see the woman be the leader every once in a while.
Hmm.
So it's
Yeah.
cool.
So, yeah, I loved this movie. I thought it was great. So, I'm going to give it actually the same score. Yeah, I have in my ranking Christmas setup a little bit higher, just barely. I have this at 5th for Christmas 2020 and I have this at 8. But I'm still going to give it the same score, 4.25. And I really enjoyed it very much. But what would you give it, Colleen?
Um, I'd say a 4.25 as well because it was wasn't quite as good as Christmas setup. I agree with you. But I think I'm actually following your lead and ranking things in my head. I don't know where they are right now. I haven't ranked yet, but everything's on a list, and I would imagine this would be top 10 by the time it's all said and done.
Hmm.
Definitely. Jared, what about you?
Um,
Would you-
I mean, I had a really good time with this one because, especially like I mentioned at the top of this, the food angle of it.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna give it just a smidge lower than the Christmas setup. I think I'm gonna give it like a 1 point or a 4, not a 1, a 4.1.
Yeah.
Just because the one thing that stood out to me was those two kids that were the judges. They weren't the best at acting. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, that's true. That's fair. That's fair. Yeah, we didn't really talk very much about the competition. The rival team
Hmm.
was a little over the top. Was a little ridiculous, but whatever. Uh, so there we go. That's our thoughts on A Sugar and Spice Holiday. We all really enjoyed it. So let us know your thoughts of both of these films, The Christmas Setup and A Sugar and Spice Holiday. Let us know in the comment section or on Twitter. We'd love to have your feedback. And Jared, how can people follow you on social media and on your channel?
Yeah. People can find me at JBuck Studios on YouTube. I think Twitter is just my full name, but kind of a combination. Just type in JBuck Studios, everything will pop up. And yeah, check me out over there for movie reviews. I kind of do some reactions every now and then, kind of doing a first watch series of a bunch of older movies I haven't watched. And if you listeners have other great Christmas rom-coms, please send them to me, because
Yeah.
I just want to turn on my Christmas tree, get a nice cup of hot cocoa, and just enjoy one of these movies.
Yeah, let's do it. Hashtag Jared Holiday. Jared Holiday.
Yes.
We'll do that. That'll be fun. So Colleen, how can people
I
follow
am
you?
on Instagram and Twitter at Lele44094. That's LELE 44094.
Great. And you can follow both of us on the Fran
All right.
Cast. Each Sunday, we post our recaps of The Nanny. And you can follow me at Rachel's Reviews, all of our social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. So check that out. And make sure you're following the podcast on Hallmarkies Pod and Hallmarkies Podcast, all of our social media. And if you are listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. We really, really appreciate that. And if you are listening to this video on YouTube, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that so much. We also have our Patreon group and merch store. Take a look at that. All that will be in the description section. And thanks again, Jared, for coming on. We really appreciate it. This was so much fun to get to know you. And we wish you all a very, very Merry Christmas. Bye, everyone.
Bye.